Wisp Sports Radio, the voice of women in sport.
Welcome to Season 1, Episode 3 of the WeCOACH podcast on Wisp Sports. Please join us every 2 weeks as we sit down with some of the best and brightest women coaches, leaders, and industry experts in the world of sports for fun and inspiring conversations. I'll be your host, Megan Kahn, Executive Director of WeCOACH. This podcast is a co-production of Wisp Sports and WeCOACH. Prior to introducing today's guest, I want to take a minute to share with you about WeCOACH. We have become the premier nonprofit dedicated to recruiting, advancing, and retaining women in the coaching profession. Since 2011, the organization was founded as the Alliance of Women Coaches and has experienced unprecedented growth. This past summer, we underwent a complete rebrand to WeCOACH. We know women face unique challenges that their male counterparts do not. Only 41% of women's college teams are coached by women. 6 in 10 women's teams are still coached by men, which means women and young girls are missing out on having strong female role models in their lives. You'll hear more about this as we release upcoming episodes. Now, on to the show. Let's introduce today's guest, Claire Lessinger, Director of Special Events for the Tampa Bay Sports Commission. Over the last 3 years, Tampa Bay has played host to a handful of major events and championships, including the 2015 NCAA Women's Final Four, 2016 Men's Ice Hockey Frozen Four, 2017 College Football Playoff National Championship, 2018 NHL All-Star Weekend, and currently Claire serves as the Executive Director of the 2019 NCAA Women's Final Four Local Organizing Committee as Tampa Bay prepares to host the event for the third time. Claire was recently featured as one of the most influential women in Tampa Bay sports by the Tampa Bay Times. Prior to her time with the Sports Commission, she spent 13 seasons on the sideline for the University of South Florida women's volleyball, the last 8 as head coach. Welcome, Claire. Thanks for being today's guest.
I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
So for those that don't know, Claire's a personal friend of mine and an unbelievable colleague here in the Tampa Bay area. She's like one of those people when you want somebody in the trenches with you, that's Claire. So I can't wait for our listeners to hear more about your story and the impact you've made as a coach and now in the Tampa Bay community. So we can't have you on as a guest and not talk about your playing career for the legendary Mary Wise. You were a 3-time participant in the NCAA D1 Women's Volleyball Final Four and 5 SEC titles. Talk about what it was like to play for Mary.
Golly, one, that was a long time ago, but it was what I like to call the glory days. You know, playing for Mary really is a privilege. And I think everyone who's ever played for her would say the same. And, you know, I was part of the early years and part of a lot of her early success. But I think what makes her so amazing is that she's sustained that now for over 25 years. And not only building that program, but turning it into a powerhouse and the winningest female coach in the history of the game. And so the fact that I had the opportunity to be a part of her legacy and learn from her, you know, again, is just such an honor. Mary is one of a kind. She's a role model and a mentor of mine. But just in terms of how she leads and how she runs that ship there in Gainesville is admirable and something that I think so many young girls and women, and of course everyone who's played for her, looks up to her as a guiding light. She gets the most out of her players. She's as competitive as they come, but she balances that with empathy. And then probably what I think is one of her most amazing traits is her passion, because it burns like fire inside of her, and it's so contagious to her players and her fans and her community. But it is truly the driving force. When I watch her coach today on the sideline, she has as much energy and as much passion as she did 25 years ago. And that's just incredible that she sustains that and can give that to her team and her coaches every day.
Yeah, that's amazing. She's the poster child. I think anyone in the volleyball world would want to grow up wanting to play for Mary. She's just unbelievable. So I can only imagine what your experience was like.
Yeah, and she's been so instrumental in growing the game. When you look back on my early days playing and where the games come today with participation up and the athleticism that is now on the court and the TV audience that's grown and the crowds and the attendance. She has been instrumental in that, not only on her campus but throughout the country.
And she's one who I consider now as transcending sport, right? You look at the Sue Enquists or the Carol Hutchins or the Pat Summits, and those people transcended more than just their own individual sport. And I definitely would put Mary in that category.
For sure. She's also, she gives back. She gives back to the volleyball community, but she gives back to women in sports and is a real fighter and a trailblazer. And to your point, yes, she's leaving a legacy that will, follow her for years.
When you were playing for her, did you realize the impact that she was having on your life, or did that hit you over the head when you were gone?
I'm sure now I'm hopefully more mature, but in self-reflecting, I was very aware because I remember, and sometimes, this isn't the most intelligent comment at times, but my goal was to be a college coach. And so, I really looked at practice every day as my favorite class and my favorite subject. And a lot of that had to do with the opportunity to learn from Mary. And, I think at the time I probably wasn't taking as copious of notes as I probably should have been. But I was very aware of the opportunity I was having and how blessed I was to be learning from her as a player at the time, but really learning from her as a future coach.
Her coaching tree is pretty phenomenal.
Yeah, it's crazy. It was always like an alumni reunion when we would go on the road recruiting because of how many, players she has either out coaching or still playing professionally. I think that's probably, one of her biggest success stories is when you come and you play and you leave and you love the game as much as you did when you started. She had a lot to do with that.
Yeah, she's fantastic. So I'm going to transition and talk about you were at University of South Florida for 15 seasons, the last 8 as head coach. Talk about what it was like to take over a program in your hometown.
Yeah, and looking back at that opportunity experience as well, I kind of pinch myself. Sometimes it's, right time, right place. I knew I wanted to get into coaching. I had an opportunity to get my foot in the door at Boston College right out of college. A friend of mine got the job and asked me to come up and be her assistant coach. And I really took advantage of the opportunity to convince myself that this is what I wanted to be doing. And that's what Boston College provided me because it was. I just wanted to be doing it somewhere warmer. So a lot of coaches spend their whole careers, they've got a goal. They're either trying to get into, a Big Five conference, or they're trying to get back home. And I had the opportunity to come back to my hometown and work at USF, for 13 seasons and help be a part of building tradition and building a program. And it happened so early in my career. And I was just really fortunate and really lucky. And I'm so grateful to USF and the leadership at USF that not only gave me the chance, the opportunity, but that also invested in me because I started, as an assistant coach, a second assistant that moved up to recruiting coordinator, and from recruiting coordinator got an opportunity to slide into the head coaching position. So to spend that many years at an amazing university, helping grow the sport in my hometown, again, was just super, super fortunate and so fun.
So when you slid 6 inches over to that head coaching role, and obviously you completely rebuilt the program. I mean, I think you had 4 appearances in the Big East Conference tournament in your last 5 seasons. So what were 2 or 3 things that you did right away? Do you recall?
Yeah, I think it's really important to build a team around you, one that you trust, but one that is going to challenge you. And so one of the first things I did was, hire against my own strengths and weaknesses, but also bring in a staff that I trusted, because we had big plans, and I felt like that was really important moving forward, is to be in the trenches with people. I knew we're gonna share in the passion and the goals that I was setting for the program, but also challenge me in areas that were going to help me grow as a young coach. So that was one of the first big moves. And then, I was at USF when we went through a conference realignment from Conference USA to Big East. And so that really challenged us to look at the way we recruited. So that was another big thing, that we kind of adjusted in terms of, we needed to get bigger, we needed to get stronger, we needed to get more athletic, and we needed to get creative in doing that and in recruiting within our resources and our budget. And so we had a lot of success recruiting internationally. And so we worked really hard to kind of reignite some of those relationships in Brazil and in Europe, and spent a lot of time over there recruiting, and really brought in some talented kids that helped us compete quickly at that next level.
So now that you've been out of coaching, what have you learned that you wish you knew then?
Oh gosh, I think when I look back at my coaching career and even my playing days, I think it would probably be, if I could go back and re-strategize, I would have probably invested or managed my time a little bit differently. I think when the pressure is so much on winning, you can lose focus of the key ingredients that are going to ultimately lead to success. And I think that's one of the biggest challenges for coaches today, is that it really is about, and I would say I'm proud to say I think I was a player's coach, and I invested in my players heavily, but it really is about, it's X's and O's are very important. Strategy is very important. You need to understand the game. You need to understand how to win. But making sure you're recruiting the right kids that are a good fit, that are bought in to what you're selling. And, I think we took some risks, which you need to do, and especially on talented athletic kids that can help you get to that next level. But I probably, would have taken more time and invested more in that process, so that the quality of the product that we were putting out was very invested from the get-go. So we spent a lot of time, trying to get kids bought in. And like I said, that investment in the kids and that relationship building is one of the key ingredients these days. And I think I was, a part of some of that subculture changing in coaching. You can't just go out there and tell kids, you do this because I say so. They need to be at the table. They need to be invested in the process. They need to be bought in, and they need to be given ownership and leadership responsibilities that are going to help you reach your ultimate goal.
I hear so many coaches talk about exactly what you just said, and buying in, and the heart, and the team culture. And at the end of the day, talent does win games. So it certainly is a dichotomy that they're constantly battling. I just heard Dabo Sweeney from Clemson football talk, and he talks about serving the heart, not talent. So I think coaches everywhere, regardless of sport, are constantly juggling that.
Yeah, and it's a tough thing to battle, and when you've got, I know for me, when we would look at our board, our recruiting board and how you recruit, it was like, okay, we've got kind of two slots we're taking maybe a risk on. Maybe it's an athletic risk. Maybe this kid's really raw, and we feel we can bring her in and train her and get her to that next level quickly, which you're seeing in our sport so much more. Or maybe it's an at-risk academic kid that's already very fundamentally sound. And so it's kind of like strategizing those risks against, what you building that core behind, your program that you can trust and ride out, because, like I said, that leadership piece and that buy-in and that investment is an extension, and the most important extension to the staff and the school and the institution's goals for the program. So I may have strategized some of that a little bit differently, but it's all about, when you're trying to get good and you're trying to get good quick, you make some mistakes along the way.
So when you transitioned out of coaching into your role with Tampa Bay Sports Commission, and I know you and I have chatted about this over several cups of coffee or glasses of wine, but can you share, can you share with our listeners what that transition was like? And I know you've talked about how you found so many of the skills transferable.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. I think I was at a point in my coaching career and I think very fortunate to leave on my own terms and love, I'm still a gator and a bull at heart. I call myself a bull gator. And get the opportunity to work so closely with USF on so many levels here in the community and as our host institution on so many events, is that as I transitioned out of coaching into my role with the Sports Commission, I kind of reached a point in my own career where I was ready to take a leap of faith and see what I was capable of outside of coaching, but was also questioning what that was. Felt like, and this was super naive of me, like that I had pigeonholed myself, into a lifelong career that may not provide other opportunities down the path. And, being a mom of two boys and really kind of figuring out what that balance was for me. When I was offered the opportunity at the Sports Commission, probably my biggest self-doubt was, what are my transferable skills? And it really took them hitting me in the face to realize how much coaching, maybe more than any other profession, grooms you for anything. When you look at all of the responsibilities, especially when you're head coaching and truly managing a program. I mean, we're marketing, we're recruiting, we're selling, we're managing, we're balancing budgets, we're, investing in people, those relationships, we're elevating student athlete experience. And at the end of the day, we're putting on for our city. So all of that transferred over to what my role was at the Sports Commission. And what ended up being my biggest learning curve was just the industry, which anyone can learn when you sit down and invest in learning. And so I was more so personally blown away and not realizing how prepared I was for almost anything because of my life and as an athlete and the opportunity I had to coach for so many years. It provided a skill set that I think is as competitive with any other profession out there.
Absolutely. So you alluded to motherhood, and you're a fantastic mom to Tanner and Tyler. Talk about juggling motherhood as a coach, and then certainly with your work with Tampa Bay Sports Commission and all you do in the community, you're working very non-traditional hours in your work environment. So how do you balance that?
Yeah, I think, balance is one of those words. It's probably on every panel you've ever done. Everyone talks about it. What is it? What does it mean to you? Does it truly exist? I think it does, but it's unique to an individual and however you define it, what's important to you personally that provides balance. And so I don't think there's a perfect answer to it. But what I will say is while coaching, the balance for me in juggling motherhood and running a program was just, the family environment that coaching provides. All of my players were daughters of mine, and all of those daughters were sisters to my sons. And so, it took a village, my husband, my mom, my brothers, everyone, them bringing the boys to practice, them bringing the boys to games, them really picking up our family and bringing it to the gym, to my other family, is what helped create that balance. And it was an amazing, having your kids grow up in a gym with all these amazing girls that love them and looked after them. I truly miss that. That is a special, unique opportunity and experience. And so, that's how we create a balance. So a lot of days on the road recruiting, a lot of time away, which makes it challenging and definitely makes it hard on those that are picking up the slack at home. But I was very fortunate my husband was a former volleyball coach. We met recruiting. So there was no one that understood and got my life and lifestyle more than he did. So that support network was there, and he was just so supportive of my personal and professional drive, and we figured it out. I say this still today, like whenever there's 4 sporting events on a Saturday and I've got an event and he's got something and my mom's away, I'm like, we'll figure it out. We always have, we always will. And that, we're going to make sure we're doing what our kids want to do and what we want to do, and that we're leaning on our support network to help facilitate that.
And you guys do. It takes a village. I love that you said that you loved your boys growing up around the team, because it always crushes me when I hear so many women talk about mom guilt and being a coach and balancing. There's so many positives that go along with that, that I wish more women would celebrate that. So I love that you said that.
Oh my gosh, yes. One of my favorite pictures is of Tyler. He's probably 2.5 or 3, maybe 2. I had some big chunky boys, but they had him in the ball cart with all the balls around him, and they were running him around the gym. And it was just awesome. And so, yes, I honestly, and I have a really dear friend that was in coaching with me at the time and was a teammate at Florida, and she has triplets, and she'd say the same thing, having those kids in the gym with her, because she grew up in the gym with her dad. I mean, that's what created, a lot of the legacy within their own family, is grooming gym rats. That's where they want to be.
Yeah. And for our listeners, I mean, they can probably already sense your enthusiasm and engagement and the type of leader you are. But I also think you're just one of the best teammates. You're always willing to pitch in. I think that feeds to folks that surround themselves with you and who you surround yourself with. So in your work currently with Tampa Bay Sports Commission and your executive director role with the Women's Final Four coming to town in April, talk about what fans can expect to see in 2019, maybe especially for ones who came in 2008 and 2015 as well.
Yeah, sure. I think, for us here at the Tampa Bay Sports Commission and in our community, we don't necessarily judge our success on winning an event once. It's really getting it back. That proves, that we did it right. And so to have the Women's Final Four coming back now for a third time, and Megan's been alongside us every step of the way, and being a member of our LOC and also our tournament manager in Arena is our goal here is to raise the bar for fans, for visitors, for student athletes. Definitely number one goal is to elevate the student athlete experience, but then also to leverage our destination and highlight what's unique about Tampa and what we can do here that other host cities can't. And that's really important, is leveraging that. And then how our model plays out and results in success is truly relied upon our community buy-in. So clearly I'm very biased, but this community, the way they come together, it's an all-in mentality. It's truly a Team Tampa Bay initiative. And a game day, every day mantra, I think just plays out and shows itself in its true form and color when the event comes to life over a championship weekend. And so there's nothing we love more than grinding it out. We've been on the clock now, since the streamers dropped from the ceiling in Columbus, and we'll put our heart and soul into our hosting efforts. But I think, for fans, what makes this event unique, why it's one of my favorite, is that it's way more than 3 games. The games are going to be phenomenal. You're seeing what's happening in women's basketball and how the game's growing. Those games last year with 2 buzzer beater wins, I mean, everyone's still talking about it. The games will take care of themselves, but how we can help elevate everything that's going on outside of the arena and around the games. So many free, family-friendly opportunities for our community to attend and the fans to attend, elevating that experience by, bringing events outdoors and along our river walk and into a walkable, convenient footprint, which is really our downtown corridor. And so we're really excited. Tampa has changed a lot since 2015. Our downtown is booming. So anyone that was here in 15 is going to already have a unique and different and elevated experience just based off the development in our own community. And then we've once again rallied the troops around our LOC and built in, influencers and leaders that are passionate about this event coming to Tampa and about what we do, what our organization does from a mission standpoint, that are thought leaders at the table helping us strategize every step of the way.
I'm biased too. I mean, I think there's none better than Tampa Bay Sports Commission. I'm going to get into some of the other major events you guys have coming up in the pipeline, but I'm going to stick with Final Four here for a second. So talk about the Beyond Series. It's now in its 10th anniversary year, which is coinciding with the third Final Four and also 10 years. So tell our listeners a little bit about the Beyond Series and then what's in the queue for this year.
Yeah, sure. I will try to be as short-winded on this one as possible. This is definitely a personal and professional passion of mine, and want to give a big shout out to Rob Higgins, our executive director, who is was the brainchild behind this in 2008, but has really not necessarily turned it over, but has supported it so much in its growth model. To now be what it is today. So for those they're getting caught up, in 2008, when we hosted the Women's Final Four, we hosted a Beyond the Baseline luncheon, which was truly a luncheon to celebrate our local women of influence, as well as the leaders and the leadership at the NCAA and Women's Final Four during championship weekend. In 2015, we wanted to grow what had started in 2008 and really create a series of events that led up to championship weekend and culminated, where there was a pinnacle during the championship weekend to celebrate the movement. It really was a movement. And so we had 4 Beyond the Baseline events leading up to that were range and size, scope, scale, but really targeted not only women of influence, women in philanthropy, women-owned businesses, women in our community. And the whole, mission behind it was to create enthusiasm, drive awareness, educate, and then help them, spread through their networks the enthusiasm about this event coming to Tampa and how women should be supporting the premier women's championship with the Women's Final Four. So it was a huge success. It generated so much momentum and so much that we committed to ourselves here locally that this would be a legacy piece moving forward. So we rebranded it to the Beyond Series. It now is an umbrella legacy initiative that we host a women's empowerment event alongside every major sporting event that comes to our community. So we hosted Beyond the Goal Line with the College Football National Championship. We hosted Beyond the Blue Line with the Frozen Four and NHL All-Star. We hosted Beyond the Baseline with the USTA Fed Cup. And we did a Beyond Barriers event, which was a celebration of Title IX. And the coolest part to all of this, besides everything we're doing here locally to grow this movement, is that the NCAA also took it with them as their own legacy piece. And so Beyond the Baseline now lives within Town and has lived in every future host city since Tampa, since 2015. So this is a bit of a coming home for Beyond the Baseline. We are ramping up our efforts, ramping up our community, created a 20-person female advisory board, which Megan is a part of, that's really helping us celebrate not only the coming home, but a 10-year anniversary for us here locally. And then also a huge network of women that are supporting the NCAA's Beyond the Baseline initiative. So couldn't be more proud of our community's support, growth, and commitment to what it is and what it's all about.
Yeah, kudos to you, because I know the work that you and Rob put in back at the first one, and now to see it in its 10th anniversary and a part of the NCAA. I mean, it's really phenomenal. It's really just, especially as a female, and as we're female colleagues and the work we're doing here locally, it just is fantastic to see it come alive in other cities as well.
Yes, that's super exciting. I mean, I can, when I was walking through the convention center, Town in Columbus, and stumbled upon this enormous build out titled Beyond the Baseline within their footprint, I just had chills. I'm like, this is so awesome. And 3 full days of programming, for women in sports, women in media, just so many targeted audiences and something for everyone. It was just so cool.
I'd almost say imitation is the best form of flattery, but we know it's not imitation because NCAA has permission, but that's almost what it's like. For our listeners, tell them how they can find more information on tickets and fan housing, because when this goes live, tickets are going to be on sale.
Yeah, sure. So there's two places you can hit up. NCAA.com is going to be where you find all your tickets, hospitality packages, as well as event information. And then WFFTampaBay.com is our host site, which will, have all of our destination fan housing, and then local organizing committee events, as well as volunteer opportunities. Both of those sites, I encourage everyone to continue to follow along as the hosting efforts continue to evolve and the event information continues to go up. But it's really important that we pack the stands and that fan attendance at the ancillary events is really what it's all about.
So I'm going to transition away a little bit, not from too far, just from specific to Women's Final Four, because Tampa Bay and you were one of the founding partners with the Sports Commission for a local WISE chapter here. So talk about the launch of the WISE chapter, your founding partners, and what that's doing for the community.
Yeah, sure. Similar to the Beyond series, this was, Beyond series evolved because of our hosting efforts with the NCAA and Women's Final Four. The WISE initiative was really a combination of, really some friendships, some colleagues, and a handful of people coming together and realizing that we are one of the largest markets, especially, with three professional franchises, a Division I institution that did not have a WISE chapter. And so, Megan, this is kind of how I operate anyways. After a few coffees and maybe a few wine meetups, there was such energy and such enthusiasm by the right people to figure out and find a way to launch one of these in our community. And so it took a lot of hard work, there's no doubt there, and getting approved through national and submitting an application and doing a lot of research and getting the right people at the table and seed funding it to launch. But with that being said, once that happened, and we were one approved, two organized, structured, and had a plan in place, we hosted our first launch event, and the launch event was really a word of mouth invite because the goal was to kind of scream it from the mountaintops that this is happening. It's happening in Tampa Bay. There's opportunity, to be involved. It is member based, so you need to join. So we use this launch event to kind of be a megaphone for what we were doing and what's to come. And we had over 180 women in sports and events register for that event. So then it was one of those things that was like, holy cow, is there not a demand for this in our community? So it's really not that we weren't energized and passionate about it before, but it's really, ignited this fire under everyone that's serving on, whether it's, planning committees, boards, et cetera, to work hard and deliver a chapter here to our community that creates this engagement, this professional development, education for our industry specifically. So it could, and the timing couldn't be any better, at least for us personally, with the Women's Final Four coming back this year, with everything that's going on with Beyond, and then to launch a WISE chapter. It's just all momentum towards this enormous movement that's happening in our community.
And selfishly, you and I chair the events committee for WISE, and so knowing what's on the horizon in terms of monthly and quarterly events, it's very exciting.
Yes, and we have probably one of the most high pressure responsibilities because we have to keep these members engaged. So the events are the key ingredient.
So if anyone's been listening, they probably would involve coffee or wine. So what do you love most about your job? It sounds like for all of our listeners, they're probably like, Claire has the coolest job. So what do you love most about your job?
I get that a lot. I do have the coolest job. I would agree with anyone and everyone who says that. I think if I had to put like my finger, I couldn't put my finger on one thing. So I'm going to say a few things. If I had to put my finger on a few things, one, I love the connectivity that we rely on to be successful. And what I mean by that is, we work with our hoteliers, we work with our special event venues, we work with City of Tampa, we work with Hillsborough County, we work with Florida Sports Foundation, we work with all the franchises. There's not anyone in this community that's not, at some point in time that we're not working with to get at the table to help make these events a success. And so that, as you can imagine, for me, that's teamwork. That's the environment I've grown up with and am familiar with. And to me, it's what works, and definitely works for me, is I constantly feel like I'm coming to work and I'm in the locker room every day and we're prepping for a big game. And so all of my analogies here at work are always related, or I can relate them to that feeling that I had as a student athlete or as a coach, is that today's game day. That's how we're prepping, and these are our teammates. And let's go get the big win. So I love that camaraderie and connectivity and sense of community that is just always at the forefront of what we do. And then probably the next thing I love is that no event is the same. So we are constantly being challenged, and not by event organizers per se, but by ourselves. How do we have the opportunity to go into these host cities that do amazing jobs before us, and how can we raise the bar, and what can we go back with into our own community and say, hey, this is new, this is coming online, how do we leverage this has never been done before, can we do it? Is just constantly thinking outside of the box and how we can raise the bar, and being challenged by that. There's no better trailblazer and trendsetter to that mentality than our executive director, Rob Higgins. I mean, he's as brilliant as they come, and he instills that in our team daily, and not intentionally. It's just who he is and how he leads. And so that is it's energizing, when there's nothing monotonous about this job. And that is actually, like, monotony is my nightmare. So I've surrounded myself with jobs that don't have monotony, that really keep me so engaged and driven.
Yeah, and your whole team and staff is incredible. So we end every episode with what I like to call quick hitters. So I'm going to rapid fire some questions at you, and you're just going to come back with the first thing that comes to mind. One word to describe you.
Passionate.
I would have never guessed. I think that is the most perfect word. Favorite thing to do on an off day, which I know for you is quite rare.
Oh my gosh, this is so hard. Something outdoors. I love being outside.
Yeah, and your family does, just because of the number of events with the boys and you and Mike and your work responsibilities you guys do. It's a good thing you live in Tampa Bay.
Yeah, and if that off day happens to be a couple strung together, then I love to travel as well.
Yes. So when you're hosting these massive, high caliber events, what keeps you awake at night?
Delivering at a high level. And that really, quite honestly, I wake up in the middle of the night, I jot things down, I put them in my phone, is leaving no stone unturned, crossing every T, dotting every I. It's about the details, but it's also about delivering and raising the bar. And have we actually thought of everything, and that we leave no stone unturned?
So what app on your phone or tablet could you not live without?
I know what my husband would say. It would be anything social media related, Twitter, Instagram. I am in shock. I look at my phone every day at the amount of hours I spend on it. And it's because it's, well, one, I work off of it, but two, it's my resource to information, because I don't go home and I don't turn on the TV very often. And so I rely very heavily on social media. But I also do enjoy, like, from a more educational standpoint, I do enjoy podcasts. I've committed myself more to listening to those in the car over music.
So what's next for Team Tampa Bay? Obviously, we have 2021 Super Bowl coming. You have several Division II championships. Quickly rattle off a couple things for our listeners to be on the lookout for.
Yeah, from a major event perspective, I mean, we host 120 to 130 youth amateur events a year, which aren't always talked about or at the forefront of, what the community is aware of us doing. So we're like mentioned, we're never bored. We're constantly busy. But from a major event resume, we've got March Madness, first and second rounds of the men's coming in 2020. We also have the D2 men's and women's soccer championship coming back to University of Tampa in 2020. We got cross country championship and volleyball championship. These are D2 in 2021, along with the Super Bowl. And then we've got the SEC men's basketball championship in 2022. So no rest for the weary, but if we were resting, we would not be doing our job. So our goal is to make sure this resume continues to build for years ahead.
And last but certainly not least, what's your favorite coffee shop in Tampa?
Oh my gosh, you're going to make me say this on the podcast? So I was just at
You can rattle off a couple.
I was just at DI Coffee Bar this morning. I was at Foundation yesterday, and I was at Caffeine the day before. So I cannot go on record saying I have a favorite. I have probably 5 that I frequent regularly, and I love them all. I love coffee shops. It's kind of my me time. It falls into maybe my self-care bucket, but I just love that hour to get myself in a mindset to start the day, post dropping the boys off and pre coming into work. I absolutely love it. We have tons of great coffee shops in Tampa.
So for our listeners, if you're coming to the Women's Final Four, tuck those nuggets into your back pocket. She just gave you a tidbit on where to find great coffee in Tampa Bay. Claire, thanks so much for being here today. This is awesome.
Oh my goodness, thanks for having me. You're a rock star as well, Megan, and love working with you.
Conversations from the world of women's sports. This is Wisp Sports Radio.
Thanks again for listening to our dynamic conversation with Claire Lessinger. Every 2 weeks, we'll sit down with female coaches, experts, and industry leaders. Our podcast will feature dynamic conversations, explore coaching insights, and share stories of courage and resilience to empower you on your coaching journey. Follow us and share your comments on Twitter at WeCOACH and at Wisp Sports, or on Facebook at WeCOACH Sports and at Wisp Sports. The show notes for this episode can be found on our WeCOACH podcast show page at wispsports.com, where you can also find more coverage of women's sports. Interested in learning more about WeCOACH upcoming events, membership options, and ways to get involved, please visit our website, wecoachsports.org. Next month, you'll find us at several sport conventions, including the Golf Coaches Association Convention in Las Vegas on December 4th, the Softball NFCA Convention in Chicago on December 6th, the U.S. Rowing Annual Convention in San Diego on December 7th, and the Volleyball AVCA National Convention Minneapolis, December 13th through 15th. For our next episode, please join us in 2 weeks as we talk with Cecile Renaud about her upcoming AVCA Hall of Fame recognition, what it was like to coach Gabby Reese, and much more spanning her impressive 45-year coaching and administrative career. Until next time, all sports, one voice, WeCOACH.